Let's go through the elements of large visualizations. When you open the large visualizations page, this top section is where you set up the default elements you need for all the visualizations below. Firstly, you can choose a language. English is the default language. Then you have German, Spanish and Portuguese. This is not the language you'll see in our interface, but it's the language in the visualizations for the descriptions, titles and any text within them that you'll see when you embed the visualizations you've chosen. So let's go through these three fields and what they mean. The first field, visualization-data, requires you to paste in a URL that will return the json-ld formatted as we expect from the CIF catalyst-interchange format. So I will paste in an example. Okay, and here explains a little bit about that it needs to be in the catalyst interchange format and that we cache it. So the second element is if you're picking, particularly if you're doing more than one visualization in a dashboard or on a page using exactly the same data set, we will cache it our end to make it quicker to draw the following visualization, and you can set here how long you want to cache that for depending on how quickly it's updated on your site. The default is a minute, but you can change it here. You then have two sort of specialization options that you can do. So we have language override, and at the moment this is just to override the core concepts, the core node types and link types we use in the system. So for example, if you want to call idea, solution or issue, question, you can override those core terms, and they appear in some of the visualizations of the node types, and you can therefore override them with your own. So you can just paste in a URL that will return a JSON formatted file, and if you go to the help page, there's a description of what it should look like and what sort of terms the defaults you can override are. Okay. User data URL. If you're going to pick a visualization that displays people's names or possibly links to their home page, not all of them do, but some of them do, and you don't want that data to be sent to our server and possibly cached, then you can split the data so that the visualization data only shows an ID for the person, and then in here you put a URL that will return the actual information for the person, but it'll only be called by the client-side code. So it will never get to our server, it'll just go straight to somebody's browser. And then those IDs will be matched up, the IDs you send in the user data with the IDs you sent in the visualization data, and we can display their name. If you don't mind, you can of course put all the user information in the visualization data. But if you do particularly want to be even more secure with people's names and things, you can do it this way. So you'd have a second URL you'd paste into here, and now what happens is that URL is called by the client side, and it's called over HTTPS so that it's encrypted and secure, which means you have to have a URL here that is a HTTPS URL, or our embeddable, which is a HTTPS, won't be able to call it from the client side. It has to be the same. And we will append a function call here, a callback function, that will then call a function on the client side to actually process that user information. So your server that this URL goes to also has to be able to recognize that it's got a callback and wrap the reply in a function call. And there's more information here and also in the help page about how to do that. Okay, so that's all the bits at the top. That's giving us all the information we need. Of course, they're not all compulsory. You have to fill in the visualization data, but you don't have to override terms, and you don't have to obfuscate user data, basically. So let's now look at some of the large visualizations. We've divided them into three sections because there's quite a lot of them. The first section is all tree structure drawings, various ways of displaying trees basically. If you're giving us networked data, the trees it'll be flattened into trees with repeating where necessary. So these is a selection of what we have. I want to describe each of these blocks because they're the same in each of the sections. Basically there's a little image of what it'll look like. There's a title, there's a description, and there's a dependencies section. And the dependencies tries to describe the data that you need in order to draw it, because there's a lot of different sorts of data that can be in your visualization schema data. You may or may not include events, that sort of thing. So this tells you what this visualization needs in order to draw something. So this one, for example, the conversation nesting, requires nodes and connections or interconnected posts. So if your data has either nodes and connections or interconnected posts, this will draw something. So each of these has the same setup: image, title, description, dependencies. And along the bottom it has several options or buttons. So this button will get you the iframe code to embed the visualization. This will get you the link code to see it as a full page if you don't want an iframe and you just want to put a link to go straight to a full page. This will preview the data, and the preview requires that you've actually filled in at least the visualization data URL at the top. If you don't have any data and you just want to see what it looks like, you can press demo and it'll use a default set of data that we've got. And each of these has the same. Now on this side they don't all have exactly the same, so some of them will include posts. For some visualizations post data is relevant and some are IBIS only. So, and you can choose, you may have a data set with both posts and IBIS data, and you want to split out that this time you don't want to see the posts as well as the IBIS, or you do. And then you can trigger it on and off here. And this puts it in a dashboard. So if you're building a dashboard embeddable rather than individual embeddables, you tick and it'll turn up in the dashboard, and I'll go through the dashboard builder later. Okay, so that's what each of them has on it, and the same for the other tabs. Picture, title, description, dependencies, the same options. Okay. Now let's preview one just to see what it looks like. So I've put in my data at the top and I'm going to press preview, and I want to see what this looks like. So this is an example of a conversation network diagram. There we are. And this is nested balls basically, and in this case it's of IBIS data, so it has typed nodes, and as you roll over the ball it'll give you the type and it'll give you the title. I'm using a German data set here so they won't make much sense to you unless you can speak German, but just looking at it you get a very clear idea of that there's groups, 3 different groups of issues, how many ideas each one has, and how many supporting and counter arguments, and by the clustering you can see which have more counter arguments, pro arguments. It gives you a very good idea of the balance of the conversation. So you can see here, for example, that this issue has only got a whole load of counter arguments and only one little positive one there. So it's not very evenly balanced. People really don't like that idea at all, or that issue. Okay, look, 3, and here that idea has only got positive. In fact, these issues all obviously have very positive answers in them. So that's just one example of a networked of a tree, data. And in the same way you can hit preview on any of these to see what they look like. The second tab is network structures. So currently we have a basic conversation network. We have a network of the people involved, so a social network. And we have some networks using analytics, so determining community interest, this one is, and trying to find sub-communities within the data set you've given us. And you can see these are both powered by deliberatorium-analytics. And then we also have a way of embedding an EdgeSense social network here, which is a third party written by the EdgeSense people, powered by EdgeSense. So let's just look at one of our network structures. Depending on the size of the data and the number of connections, it will take varying amounts of time to draw. Right, let's have a look. So you can see here, this network of the conversations shows that there are 3 distinct groups of conversations going on in this data set. And again, as an overview, you can see the issues, the ideas, the pros, the cons. This one also shows people data. So because I filled in the obfuscation of people, it's giving me their names. And if you click them, in fact, it will go to their home pages because that data was included in the user data. And we can zoom in a bit, see what this would look like, or with the mouse wheel. There we are, and we can see a little bit better all the ideas and the people. So that's a basic visualization of a network that we give. Let's have a look at some stats and stuff. So here we have more analytical diagrams or visualizations looking at quite often the activity. So if you give us, for example, if you have history logs with viewing statistics, editing, adding activities, those can be in the data you give us, and then we can give you some statistics on them. So some of them are quite simple, like these two. They just show contributions over time by type, and these ones are more of a breakdown. So here's activity analysis. Let's have a look at that one. So here's an example of the activity analysis diagram. And here you can see it's got different sections. The top graph is overall activity over time, and you can do various zooming and selecting. And here it gives you days broken down by days of the week, by contribution types, and by activity types. So how many people created items, updated them, viewed them. And if you click one of these, all the others adjust. So now it's just showing me on days of the week that viewing activity happened, the types of viewing. If I want to click just ideas that were viewed, and in this way you can filter and unfilter and get a very clear idea of what happened, and they all interact. And at the bottom you see the actual data that's been filtered down by my current choices. So it's quite a good way of taking all your activity data and being able to really have a look at it in detail. And there are other ones you can go through, but the basic behavior is in the same. It's got the same layout with an image, title, description, dependencies, and the options that you can do with it. So that's a little overview of how to use the large visualizations. Let's now look at if you want to build a dashboard. So we've shown you some previews of individual visualizations, but if you'd like to embed a whole dashboard, we have a little dashboard builder system. So what you can do is you can go around and click include in dashboard on the ones you'd like to include in the dashboard. And I've been ticking some already earlier when I was playing. There we are. And what happens if you go to the dashboard builder tab, you'll see that it has listed all the visualizations that I've ticked. Basically I can rearrange the order of them here, because what you'll get when you actually put embeddable in is you'll get a tabbed set of pages, and the home page will have shortcut buttons that look a bit like this on them, and so you can determine here the order by dragging them about a bit and deciding how you want them. And you can give it a title, and then you can have a little look at what it'll look like. So here's my testing dashboard, and these are the visualizations I selected, and you can see the tabs and the ordering follows that, the ordering I selected. And so this way, if you want to have a separate page somewhere on your site with a whole load of the visualizations all together, it's just a quick way of building a mini dashboard. Of course you could take each one separately and build your own set of tabs or whatever, but we just give you this one if you want a quick way of doing it. Okay, and as you click on each of these, you basically will get a full page representation. What you will find with a dashboard is the first visualization will take the longest to load, and then because the data is being cached, the following ones will be quicker because it's already sucked in the main data and cached it. So this is one of our other tree visualizations. It's called a sunburst. And again, this is showing IBIS type data, so you can get at a glance kind of the balance of arguments, the number of issues and ideas, that sort of thing. And as you roll over again, it gives you the type and the title of the item. So that's what a dashboard would look like.